Because you are also one of the great of the North-South
You have the podium.
And it is an honour to address such a wise and informed group. And I also knew that I would follow Amartya Sen, who prepares such an elegant discourse, even if he has a plane to catch. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share with you some thoughts and reflections and try and maybe be a little stimulating for the discussions later this morning and this afternoon. And I'm going to make it quite personal. And I'll begin on a personal note with my own tribute to the role of the North-South and of the leaders. And I'd like to identify those links with two of the strong women that we've been hearing about. I didn't know Barbara Ward. I'm sorry I didn't from everything I've heard about her. But I now fill her shoes as the chair of the International Board of IIED. And they're big shoes to fill. And I've learned so much from the way in which she had such influence, and I'll come back later to part of that influence. And when we were to establish a small human rights, the ethical globalization initiative, when we were establishing it just 5 years ago, I asked enough people to serve on an advisory council. I see some people like Manal on the floor, but one of them was Khadija Barney, but it was great that you gave quite a lot of that time and helped us to see how we might shape one of those bonds, carrying forward a lot of the thinking of the North-South. And I think I take issue a little bit with Amartya Sen. I do think round tables getting together are deeply significant, potentially, and very often are in advance of other thinking. I just had a quick look back at some of your earlier round tables that Khadija was listing. And if you take, for example, the 3 food round tables in the early 90s, which focused on issues of food security, on small farmers, and international action. And one major conclusion of this effort was that food security would only be achieved with increased food production in developing countries, especially by small farmers, which would lead to a better in world food production. Somehow I think we're there again, and Agra and other proposals, and we haven't really properly built up the thinking of the North-South Roundtable. I think we have to remind ourselves of some of that approach. In that sense, the mission and the vision of the North-South Roundtable is more important than ever in our today, and I'm glad that many other organisations, as I said, are taking up the challenge. Because in our global age, responsibilities to one another cannot, as we know, be limited by state borders. A world linked by commerce and culture and communication must be joined by compassion and values as well. If global benefits are to be widely shared and its burdens fairly borne, it must be transformed from a process centred on economics to one steered by values and ethics. And the key to that is finding new ways to foster dialogue and shared vision between the global North and South. Let me reflect briefly on where the debate on human rights and development seems to be at the moment. I do believe that progress has been made, and that I wanted to look at some of the challenges remaining around the human rights and development next. As you know, the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights have been translated into international law, incorporated into national constitutions,